Thank you for the introduction, Flora. So, my name is Robin Marshall. I'm going to be talking today about putting on local community events, why they're so fantastic for your organisation. So after a brilliant introduction by Findacure, I'm going to be focusing more on these smaller scale events and give you some things to think about in relation to them. First, a bit about me. So, in the past I've organised community events ranging from bake sales, public speaker events, a variety of sponsored sporting activities, and I even got to organise a puppy petting session to raise money for guide dogs in the UK, which was very exciting. But now I work as an events organiser for the AKU Society. So I'll tell you a little bit briefly about what we do as a charity. So we are a patient support charity who focus on aiding those with the rare disease alkaptonuria. Now we know of around 100 people in the UK with this disease, meaning those who we do support are in very small numbers. Due to these small numbers, we are only a team of 5, which means limited manpower and limited resources. Now, being not a huge charity means community events are so important to us. It's really, really vital that the people we do engage stay engaged with us. Because they are so few, we really rely on them again and again to work with us. But we really believe that even though we do have these small numbers, it doesn't mean we have to have a small audience, the people that we reach, to tell about AKU. But what it does mean is that keeping our small community together is vital for continued growth and effectiveness of our organisation. Now, for keeping your community together, you'll be able to benefit your organisation massively. I'm going to try and really sell you on why local community events can be the things that get you these results. So firstly, a little bit about the benefits of community events. So quite an obvious one straight away is publicity. The more people who know who you are, the more you can reach your audience. It's really very simple. Now, an example of how we do this is through putting up press releases when we put on community events to spread the word about what we're doing. Now, you may think it's quite simple. You do a press release when you're doing an event, but really focusing on local newspapers and not national ones really works for us. If we're targeting the local press, we know that the community that we're in will hear about what we're doing, they'll want to know about what we're doing, and they will more likely to come to our events. We ensure that those in our community are hearing about what we do. And it doesn't just have to be newspapers. Local radio is an often overlooked method of getting the word out about you, and it can be very, very useful. Gaining new support. This will help your organisation grow with continued interest and support from new individuals. Now, these will enable you to bring in new people, for which small organisations is so important. We often find ourselves as a small charity, keep relying on the same individuals over and over again to get people to come to our events. And you often get a bit of fatigue. People don't want to keep paying up for donations and for money. Making sure you're focusing on bringing in new people is extremely important. And I must say, attract new members. Now, members is different for everybody. For us, a member means a patient who has alkaptonuria who we want to support. So when we say we want to attract new members, we want to identify new patients. And through doing community events, it really helps put our name out there. We may be able to identify someone who has AKU and then offer them more support. So when you're thinking about putting on a community event, think about what will attract new members, what will attract a new audience, how can you keep them engaged, and I think most importantly, what will keep them coming back. Because when you have a local community event, it's really about creating those strong relationships, and you want people to come back again and again and really develop that relationship with them. It's about being an excellent point one can make is rewarding your supporters, keeping the engagement. It's great to focus on getting in new people and getting to keep coming to your events, but maintaining existing relationships is just as important as creating new ones. Again, the whole point of community events is to really develop the relationships with those people who do support you. And lastly, raise money. Now I want to touch on this a little bit. For local community events, raising money, it may not be the most important thing to you. Local community events often focus on getting people in, getting to know them, really sort of driving it home that it's a one-on-one relationship. You will not necessarily be trying to make a load of money off the event. But with the right planning, you absolutely can, which I'm going to come on to in a minute. So, if you decide to run a local community event, it's important to carefully think about why. not just why you're doing it, but why would somebody want to come? I think a really excellent point that Findacure made was about that unique selling point. Really highlight yourself and why you differ from someone else. Now, would you be able to, if you can, raise your hand if your organisation is the only one who does what you do? Are you the only ones who offer the exact services you do? So that's the majority of people in here. For us at AKU, it's hard to say for certain what would happen if you didn't exist, but we know for us there'd be a lot less support if we didn't exist for those who have AKU, and there would be a lot less guidance for them. So when you're putting on a community event, really think about what would happen if you weren't there, and how can you put that into the planning of your event, what can really make people appreciate what you're doing. And if there are similar organisations to you, really highlight why you are different. Because today, there are no shortage of charities. Competition is very fierce for resources. There are over 167,000 charities in the UK. And even as a small charity, you can't rely on supporters attending your events just because you exist. You need to really make an effort with them. And local community events can be really good ways to do this. Things like coffee mornings, comedy nights, quiz nights. Sporting events are always excellent to put on. They require very little preparation on your side if they're run externally. And you can, like I said, make money off them. This is one that I want to really highlight in a minute, the coffee mornings. So when you're looking at your case for support for community events, like I said earlier, are there similar organisations that do what you do? How does your cause stand out and differ from similar causes? Like I said, really highlight why you are different. And talking about the coffee mornings, when I said, these are community events which are very, very easy to run. Now, with a coffee morning, Macmillan. Now, I'm sure, have most of you heard of Macmillan coffee mornings? Now, a Macmillan coffee morning, in 2014, they made £20 million off it. 225,000 people took part. Now, albeit Macmillan are, I imagine, bigger than most of the organisations here today, but a coffee morning, it's a community event on a much bigger scale. Now, think about how can you scale that down and to make it so that it's still the same principles in there. It's about developing those community ties, but it's still a huge, huge event that can bring in money with very little overheads, very little costs. And if an organisation like Macmillan is really valuing a coffee morning and putting that much time and effort into it, you should really think about it too. They're clearly seeing it as a winner. So, budget. Now, I know Findacure have touched on this briefly, but I'll just put it into perspective for your smaller events. So, as a small organisation, the idea of a budget may be completely irrelevant. You may have a non-existent budget, you may have a small budget, you may even be well-funded if you're very lucky. It's important to work with what you have when considering what kind of event you want to put on. Community events often focus on getting large numbers of people to inexpensive events. They focus on the person rather than the money that you could bring in. If you want to, you need to reflect this when planning the budget for your event. Something I really want to highlight when looking at budgets for local community events is hidden costs. Now, if you're working with a small budget, hidden costs can be the really ones that set you back. And I'll give you an example of these, of an organisation a few years ago who put on an event. It was a medium-sized event. They weren't looking to put on a load of money. They designed a poster, they planned all the event out, they promoted it. The day went off about a hitch, people came, they made a bit of profit, it went really well. A month later, they got fined from a stock image company because they used a stock image by accident to promote their event. All the money they made was gone, and they'd actually had a deficit. Do you have a contingency plan for that? What happens if the hidden cost strikes and you have no unexpected idea of where it's coming from? That money may have already been spent. It's something you really have to think about when you're looking to do your event. So if you've got a budget, you're thinking of doing a community event, looking at venues is really important. Now, again, with a small budget, it's important to realise that you may not get everything you want. Meeting your objectives with limited funds, you may not get the perfect venue. It's unlikely, but you can still look. Does it fit with your audience? Now, when I say fit with your audience, it's really about knowing what kind of venue is right for the people you're bringing. Now, For example, for us at AKU, a lot of our patients are in wheelchairs that have mobility problems. We wouldn't necessarily hold an event on a hill. I know it may seem very obvious, but the things you really need to think about when you're putting on your event, what does your audience require from you for them to want to come to the event? Looking at travel considerations, are people going to want reimbursing for coming? This will lead into your budget. Do you have time to do a site visit and go and look at to see if it's suitable? Really important thing to look at. Somewhere that is interesting, something a bit different, unique, and free. Now, getting a venue for free, it's not always possible, but it's always the aim. I know, at least for us, we're always trying to look for somewhere that will do us a deal for free. But it's important to see what's out there in regards to choosing your venue. Now, a lot of bars and pubs have function rooms that you can use for free. It's never harmful in asking if you can come to an agreement where they, for example, will take the bar take and you can then use their venue for either reduced or free amount. Now, something that I've found really useful when looking at venues, especially things like pubs and bars, they're not professional services. They don't have an events team. They will not have a necessarily defined way for you to book a space out. They may not even check their emails. They may not answer the phone, and when you do, they may not give you the time of day. Never underestimate the power of going in and just talking to the owner. Explain your cause face to face and try and get them to understand what you want to do. You'd be surprised how effective it is. I was recently looking for a venue to host one of our events, and I spent weeks sending out phone calls, emails, all looking for someone to get back to me. I didn't even mention that I wanted it for free. I got no reply. Eventually, I went outside our office, went to the first pub I saw, spoke to the landlord, and he said, sure, fine, you can use it. We won't charge you anything. We just do it on one of our quieter nights. It can be really surprising how easy it can be when you just go and talk to somebody. And I can get lost a little bit nowadays. So, if you decided you want to go for it, you've got your budget, your venue, organising a team. Now, your team may just be you. As often is the case, you may have a one-person team. You may be the only one doing the organisation for your event. So you really need to reflect that with the event you want to put on. There may be several jobs needing to be done at once, and on the day, there may require lots of things happening. So if you are just one person, think about what are the time commitments going to be? Do you need anyone with particular expertise there? Do you need to look at getting volunteers? I think volunteers is a really important one. If you do have a small team and you know you're not going to have enough people, look to see if volunteers want to come and get involved. Say, first, if I was hosting a theoretical golf tournament, I'd like one person to meet people, one person to show them around, one person to have a raffle bucket, maybe another person on hand in case there's an emergency. But it's important to remember that you need to have defined roles for each person there. So if you have a range of volunteers, they may not take it as seriously. After all, it's not their job. They're not getting paid to be there. So why should they come, show up and make sure they do it? So I really think it's important to make it fun for them. If you're having people volunteer their time, you don't want to treat it too much like their job because they're not going to want to come back. And if you make it fun, I really think people will see that at your event and they will have fun too. So it's really good just to try and take a look at what you're doing with volunteers and make sure it's a nice environment for them, especially with these local events where they can be really important if you can't afford to employ a full events team. So promotion, I know it's all been covered quite a lot. Social media, everyone knows how important it is. It is extremely valuable for getting the word out for your event. Facebook events, posters, Eventbrite, it's all there, and it's all majoritively free to use. But what I thought is really important to look at is knowing your audience in regards to promotion. Now, for us, we know a large part of those who have AKU, they're slightly older. A lot of them, they don't have Facebook. A lot of them don't have emails. They're completely off the online sphere, which the majority of promotion is done. So when you're looking at doing your promotion, really identify who you want to attend your event and what is the best way to reach them. We send out letters in the post to people, we ring them, we may even do a home visit because we know that's how we'll get people there. And for local community events, that's what it's all about. It's all about talking to someone, telling them to come, asking them why you want to come to the event, and really hammer home that it's a personal invite. Putting up Facebook post after Facebook post, yeah, it's great, but people will tend to ignore it. if you really tailor it to somebody, they're much more likely to come. And I think that's really, really valuable thing to look at. Getting the word out ensures people will come to your event. And for local community events, that's what it's all about. You want people there, you want people to come, make connections, and you want them to keep coming back. So, contingencies. Again, I know a lot of people have covered this, but if things don't always go to plan, don't worry about it. Being able to adapt to the situation is vital in running a successful community event. Having what-if planning is extremely important. And I think a really valuable thing to look at with local community events is that when you're doing, say, hosting a venue out from a pub or a bar, they may not want a written contract. They may say, oh sure, you can use my pub. Come down on Tuesday, bring whoever. There's no contract there. They can cancel that. They are in their right to just say, actually no, I've got a better offer now. So you really need to think about what is your backup plan if something like this happens. With sometimes small amounts of money changing hands, if not a lot, with local community events, it can be a lot less well organised. It's really important to either make sure you get a contract or have a backup plan if things don't go completely the way you want them to. So, some final tips from me. Really simple stuff. Build and maintain contact database, know who you want to invite, keep their names for next time, make sure you know who you want to come and make them want to come back. 6 months of planning is how much I would like to plan an event, even a small event. You want at least 2 or 3 months of promotion alone. I think that's a really big thing not to overlook, is to make sure that you have enough time to promote and plan. Never forget the legal issues, even for small events. Thank yous. Cannot overemphasize how important thank yous are. When I say it's about building relationships with local community events, let people know their time is valued. Findacure do an excellent job of doing thank you packages after their event, which are really appreciated. People really like that personalised thank you for coming. And for community events, that's what it's all about. And just a little thing to end on. If you're a small organisation, it doesn't mean you have to have a small audience. Now, when I say this is that you'll be really surprised how much you can accomplish with a small amount of people who have a very large and passionate voice. So thank you very much, and I'll let you questions.